Welcome to the Opt-in Podcast. This is Melissa Franks, your host, and we are still in Mental Health Awareness Month. The month of May is a month where we recognize the need for mental health resources. We celebrate stories of those that have overcome challenges, and we advocate for those that are struggling, if that may be the case. I have the great opportunity of speaking this month on a variety of platforms about mental health, specifically around resiliency and pivoting. And so I'm dedicating this month of podcasts to the topic so that we can really double down and look at mental health through the lens of business. And you, the business owner or the person working inside of a business, can get actionable tactics and tips and hear some stories from me to promote mental health awareness inside of your business and maybe help yourself a little bit too. Last week, we talked all about hustle culture, and the week before that, we talked about resiliency. This week, we are talking about leading with empathy. This is maybe one of my favorite leadership topics because nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it, nobody teaches it, and it's one of the nuanced areas in people management that makes everybody a little bit uncomfortable. Like, it gives everybody a little bit of uncertainty. And because we have so many policies and practices that ensure equity and inclusion and balance and protect people from discrimination, we have HIPAA requirements, we have all of these things. This becomes a sensitive place, and often leaders say, hey, I'm just tapping out. I'm not doing this. I'm going to focus on the work and the data and the information and the human, not my concern. I want to tell you right now that I disagree so strongly. Like, I disagree from the top of my head to the tip of my toes. You will hear me over and over and over again. I've likely said it over and over and over again 1,000 times on this podcast that if you take care of your people, the results will follow. If you take care of the people, the results will follow. I am a people-first leader, always, everywhere, will be. And all of the entrepreneurs that I work with, all of the businesses that I advise, this is a key focus and area for us. How we care for our people, whether it's policies, whether it's communication style, whether it's boundaries, whatever it is, how we care for our people is how they will show up in our business. How we care for our people is how they will show up for those we serve. How we care for our people is how they're going to talk about the business when they are not with us. After all, your people are your greatest asset. They're your greatest business card. They're the ones that are actually having the business run. They are the people that are generating the results, and they are the people that are out there in the world talking wonderfully or horribly about you and what you do. So the best business strategy that you can have is to take good care of your people. Now, I want to preface that with that does not mean letting them take advantage of you. That does not mean looking the other way for poor performance. It doesn't mean any of those things. But what it does mean is recognizing that those that work with and for you are in fact a 360-degree whole person. I've had a lot of conversations over the years, and heck, I can talk a little bit about myself early on in my career. Early on in my career, I had a very strong point of view that at work, we talked about work, and my life, my life outside of work, is none of your damn business. So what that would look like is I would roll into the office and somebody else would come in and I would be like, work down your throat and in your face. How are we doing on that project? Can we sit down and do this processing? Are you ready to go to that meeting? Like, I was on fire and on it. And granted, I move at like the speed of light. So at 8 o'clock in the morning, for some people, it was a lot to swallow. They were frustrated. They thought that I was aggressive. They did not like me, literally. And I can vividly remember getting brought into a conversation with my boss's boss. So, that's never good early on in your career. And he was very direct with me and said, your approach is rubbing everybody the wrong way. We are a tight-knit team. This team specifically, they were friends outside of work as well. So they played sports together and they all had lunch together. So it was like a very interesting situation, but it's very similar to what happens in a small business. They were friendly and familiar with each other, and they knew information that was not work related about each other as well. We attended each other's weddings eventually and all of those things. And so when he pulled me into his office, he said to me, like, they do not like you. You are rubbing them the wrong way. And I was shocked because I was so good at my job and I was generating results and I was pulling my weight. I was shocked that they did not like me. Like, you literally was on the floor. And what he said next made me so uncomfortable. He said, the problem is you're all about work all of the time. You're like a robot. And that makes people not like you. It makes people not want to work with you. It makes people frustrated. So you have a choice to make. Make a change or stall out, because sooner or later people aren't going to want to cooperate with you. And it was a sucker punch. I had the misguided, and I don't know where I got it from, probably TV. Like, I honestly have no idea where this came from. I had the misguided point of view that there needed to be a brick wall between who I was outside of work and who I was inside of work. And I didn't know how to remove some bricks in the wall so that they could bleed into each other. And it literally took me a year, I think. I had to put a note and remind myself, do not ask a work question before you ask a personal question. How was your weekend? How was dinner last night? How was that thing? I had to take notes, I'm not joking, about people. So I would hear them talking about an upcoming concert they were going to, or a race they were going to run, or whatever. And I would actually keep notes so that when I taught, like, the dates and all the stuff, so when I talked to them next, I'd ask them how the birthday party was that they went to. Or I had to train myself how to interact as a human, literally, in the work environment, and how to do so without sacrificing my personal boundaries. So I also had to figure out what I was comfortable sharing and what I wasn't comfortable sharing, and how those things went. I had to find ways to connect on related topics. And the good news is that I figured it out. The fantastic news is that it was incredibly early in my career. I think I was like out of college for 3 years when I got that coaching. Because if you know me today, if you've known me for the last 15 years, this is a muscle that is fully developed. This is a muscle that I can flex whenever I want without thinking. I absolutely changed my approach, my personality, my mentality, and that it created a wealth of opportunity for me long into the future. Now, I am not going to tell you right now that learning that lesson, because it was a hard lesson, meant that I never had an enemy in the workplace, because that's the opposite. Because what is also true is that there is competition everywhere. So what is also true for me specifically is I learned how to leverage those skills. I even am so expert at this now and ninja at this that I know what I'm supposed to do based on the country of origin of the individual that I am working with. And that is because I worked for a multinational company for 15 years and I was a global executive. So I know how to maneuver and engage and build relationships across the globe, literally. And that's what practice of being empathetic and leading with a people first mindset will get you. I went from the person that was a robot and nobody liked 3 years into working outside of college. And my biggest fear in life that I never told anybody was that I would have no friends and nobody would like me. So like it literally came to pass. And I felt about the size of, I don't know, a fly. Like I felt just so inadequate when I got that feedback. I went from there to being a global executive that can foster relationships across country boundaries, that was invited to train hundreds of thousands of managers inside of that organization about people management and leading. And I was able to swing that pendulum in under 2 decades. So if I could go from there to there, you can too. So leading with empathy is incredibly important. And I share that not to toot my own horn, but to tell you it takes hard work. It wasn't just that I could get the feedback and then I could become the person that I am now. It was an intentional year over year, day over day work to get there. So why does leading with empathy matter so much now? Listen, the reality is that we went through a global pandemic. I know we're all exhausted about talking about it. It's 2025. Nobody wants to talk about it anymore. That was 2020. It was 5 years ago. Like we've come out of it, et cetera. Except we've come out of it different. There's 2 things that have happened inside of business. We've come out of a global pandemic differently, and it has irrevocably shaped future generations of workers. Gen Z that's coming into the workforce today, the Gen Alpha that will follow behind them, they fundamentally grew up with a different interaction model than millennials, Gen X, boomers, etc. And because we went through a global pandemic, one of the things that became highlighted and out in the world was this intersection of your literal home life and your work life. Why? Because we were all working in our homes. So everybody got to see what your physical living environment looked like. They saw your family. Maybe they had never seen your family before, or your roommates, or they realized that you were living and renting a room from somebody. Our boundaries were obliterated during the global pandemic. And that caused strain and stress. And then, of course, there was all of the horrible things that happened. And what it highlighted when we all began to return to whatever that is, and we're still shifting and bending, as we all know, what it highlighted was a need for businesses to be open and candid about mental health challenges. And what became really interesting at this period of time, and this is one thing that I want to invite you to do, is that when open-mindedness and dialogue around mental health entered the workforce, one of the things that became measurably improved was retention and morale. Retention was better and morale increased when leaders, managers, and owners understood that they needed to take time to actually check in. And here's one of the first things that I want to say to you about this, is that the checking in doesn't happen just when they're struggling. The checking in happens all of the time. And you need to decide at what cadence and frequency you want to do. I'm not recommending you do it daily, but maybe once a month. In a one-on-one, you're not talking about work. You're talking about them. You're holding space for them to be able to communicate how they are doing. And they don't need to tell you about all the ins and outs in their family and their drama and their divorce and their financial troubles. You're giving them space to be able to communicate to you that I have a lot going on in my personal life. And so I may lose some focus here. Or I may need to take a phone call so that I can address my child struggling at school, and I need to make sure that I'm available for the school. You need to give them space and room because they will not bring that to you. They will not. Employees generally are not going to come to you and say like, hey, I want to have a candid conversation about what's going on with me, and I just want you to be aware in case it impacts my performance. They're not going to do that. Because most people are shameful about what's happening in their personal life, which also, spoiler alert, they do not need to be. So when you hold them space to be able to share what they want to share, it automatically creates a human element in the relationship. It automatically allows them to be seen and heard, and maybe they're not seen and heard anywhere else. It allows you to be able to offer resources, and sometimes it just allows you to hold space for what they need at the time. Now, in some cases, you can do all of those things and you don't get much. Maybe it's a person like I was, it's incredibly private, they're not going to tell you what's going on. That's cool too. We're not talking about forcing anybody to tell you anything. It's that you're creating an environment where they could be comfortable and they have the opportunity to talk to you about how they are really doing, if need be. The next thing you, as the owner or the manager, need to be incredibly aware of is disruptions of patterns. One of the easiest ways to identify that somebody is struggling is because their performance has dramatically changed. And this could be that you have somebody that is incredibly attentive to detail and precise, and all of a sudden they start making simple errors. This could be that you've had somebody that's been punctual for 5 years, and now all of a sudden they're showing up inconsistently late to work. It could be their appearance. Maybe you had somebody that was always well put together and groomed, and now they're coming in disheveled and just off from where they were. You may see that they're short-tempered when they never were. There's a variety of things that you may observe, and really what you are looking for is the pattern interrupted. And when it is, it's a sign to you. It's a sign to you that it's time to take a moment out and give them space. It's a sign for you to check in. And this is how you do that. I actually want to tell you how to have that conversation. When you've identified that there is somebody working for you that is struggling, that their performance or their behavior has changed materially enough that it's time for a conversation. What you're going to do is, in a private setting, in a place that's not going to get their back up, so you're going to take a walk. It's such a great time to do, like, this is such a great way to do this when you're walking side by side so they do not have to look at you. When you can walk next to each other, it's such a natural way for them to open up and be more comfortable. So if you're physically together, I highly recommend that you take a walk. Walk to the coffee shop, walk to lunch, take a walk around the building, whatever it might be. But you get together in a private setting where nobody can interrupt you and you have dedicated time, and literally clear your calendar. You don't know if this is going to take 5 minutes or 3 hours. Okay? And you tell them, hey, this conversation is just a check-in. And then you tell them what behaviors you're noticing. You started to show up to work late consistently. You're starting to make really silly errors when you've never done that before. I've noticed that your general appearance has changed. I know, figure out what it is exactly that you have observed, and then just say, what's going on? And you've got to be quiet. You've got to be very quiet. You have to hold space. You have to be specific with the behaviors, but not accusatory, and allow them to articulate what's going on. More often than not, when you have a pattern interruption like those that I just described, it's because something is happening in their personal life. It's because they are personally having mental health challenges, or it's that they maybe are a caregiver that you didn't know about, or maybe their relationship is struggling, or maybe they had a death in the family, or maybe a pet is sick. I mean, I could go on for the next 3 years about all of the maybes. When there is a pattern interruption where they begin to exhibit behaviors that are unexpected and not like the norm, and it's not for the better, you know that something's going on. And so this is your opportunity to just open up. And they may not want to talk to you at first, or may not want to give you anything, and that's okay. The goal of the conversation is for you to acknowledge that you have observed it, and to discuss what you can do instead. So come away with a few action plans and points, and to let them know that if there's anything that they ever want to discuss with you, that you can do so in confidence and they can just let you know. And this allows them to start to see that there is a possibility that they can come to you with things that are not work related if it is impacting them at work. Part of being an empathetic leader isn't that you are really commiserating with them and getting down in the weeds and all of the things. It's that you are acknowledging that there is something that they are grappling with, and you help them in the environment that you're in, which is your business environment, find ways to work through that in the best way that you can. Now, aside from that very specific tactic that I just gave you, one of the other things that you can do to demonstrate that you are leading with empathy, that you are a people-first leader, that the environment is psychologically safe and that they can, in fact, have these conversations with you, is you need to share a little bit too. This isn't a one-sided situation. You need to be a little vulnerable in front of them. The way that I often demonstrated that was that I would be very candid about where I missed deadlines, where I messed up. I vividly remember, and the person that this happened with will probably never forget it either because she about fell out of her chair, but I had recently taken over the procurement and vendor management function. And I'd never managed procurement and vendor management before. I just knew that there was a lot of policies and procedures. And I approved and paid for something, and I didn't follow the policy. I broke literally, I think, all of the rules. All the rules I was supposed to be ensuring were followed. I think I broke them all. And this sweet team member came to me and very gently, and didn't really want to, and told me, hey, you have broken all the rules, and now we need to do this other thing, and it's pretty bad that you did that, and we need to do this other process so that we can just show that you didn't have any malicious intent, and et cetera, et cetera. I was just trying to move fast. So when you move fast, you break things. I learned that lesson the hard way. So I really appreciated it, and I went back to her desk. I did what I was supposed to do, and I went back to her desk, and we had an open floor plan office. So as loudly as I could, so there was 80 employees out there. I wasn't shouting, but I'm pretty loud. As loudly as I could, I apologized to her for making an error, for requiring her to do more work, for not asking for help. I apologized to her in public, in the open office. really, really intentionally, because I wanted to be able to demonstrate that we will all make mistakes, and it's how we work through the mistakes that's important, not that the mistake happened. I wanted my entire team to know. I wanted to know all of those people that I led in the office that were looking to me for guidance, support, leadership, and who actually directly reported to me, that I was fallible too. And so when they made a mistake, they could tell me that it was okay to rebound. It was okay to do those things. And I will tell you that story propagated itself through the company faster than anything else. The fact that I think it was like 2 days into having the job, I'm not joking, that I had enough humility to own my mistake and to publicly apologize to somebody that was probably 3 levels below me. It cemented my credibility. I became a leader that people sought after to ask for help, to confess when there was a big mistake that was made, and to help them provide solutions to get them out of the pickle. I became the keeper of the secrets. And while at the time, my intention was to foster trust with the team, I intentionally did that because I wanted them to understand that I respected what they did and I was not authoritarian. The impact, though, of that one single act fundamentally changed how the organization interacted with me and the relationships that I had. And it led to, by the time I was leaving the organization, it led to over 200 people, probably more than that, trusting me implicitly, looking to me for guidance, knowing that I was going to take care and lead the business in a way that was going to take care of them all. And that was a huge responsibility and one I didn't take lightly. And it all started with just being a little bit vulnerable, just a little bit. And I didn't have to sacrifice much except my ego, really. And so that's what I mean when I talk about being vulnerable. You don't need to come into the office and tell them about a bad first date you went on, or challenges in your marriage, or a financial crisis that you're in, or any of those things. You don't have to get all personal and do things that are not uncomfortable. What you do need to do is find tactics and ways to show vulnerability so that they understand that you too are human and they can come to you as well. So to round this out, really what you are doing is you are behaving as a human inside of your business. You're behaving as a human with your team. And you are doing so as a leader. You're setting boundaries for yourself around what you will and will not share. And you are inviting them to have a relationship with you that is safe, so that when there are challenges, they can share those with you. They can share with you challenges when they're struggling to interact or build a relationship with a team member or somebody in another department. They will struggle with you. They will share with you when they are struggling about balancing all of the demands and priorities that they have in their life with the priorities that they have at work. They will come to you for guidance and counsel. When you can lead with empathy, when you can lead with a people first mindset, and when you can genuinely care about your people, you will foster an environment that's healthy for them to work in. It's psychologically safe. And while they may be having challenges outside, work is an environment that they feel whole in. Now, of course, when we talk about mental health, there are also components that you can't handle. And that's why if you are a business owner or you're a leader inside of a business, understanding the resources that you can provide, that are available, or that you can make available in order to help those that need it, are really important. Some things cost no money. Flexible scheduling and work arrangements cost no money. Maybe they need to work from home a few days a week because they're the only one that can take their kids to school and to aftercare. Maybe they are caring for somebody that's elderly, and so one day a week they need to be available to take them to doctor's appointments, and so they need to off shift. Who knows what that might be, but flexible schedules cost you nothing, literally. So that's the very first thing that I would recommend. And then if you work in a company that has employee assistance programs, phenomenal. If you own the business and you can afford to have an employee assistance program, which allows them maybe 2, 3, 5 therapy visits that you pay for, or it provides some resources, some mental health resources, or it provides, even employee assistance programs sometimes provide like free gym memberships and health and wellness and mindfulness and yoga and massages and all that. If you can do any of those things in your business, or the business you work for has them, make sure employees know that they're available. Make sure that you give them time to take advantage of them. Really engage around all of those topics. And The last thing that I'll say is that some people really, they do have very serious mental health conditions, and it's your responsibility to not discriminate. It is your responsibility, if they share with you, to understand what their limitations and boundaries are as a result of those, and to help build a plan so that they can be as productive and successful in your business as possible. Mental health is something that we really need to be open and considerate about. Our younger generations are coming in with expectations that we manage with that in mind, and the best thing that you can do as a leader is to lead with empathy, take care of your people, and make room and space for them to have these conversations in a safe way. I hope this was helpful to you. I would love to hear what else you do to foster inclusion and trust and psychological safety in your businesses. So if you want to share those with me, I would love to hear them. And next week, we will wrap up Mental Health Awareness Week with one more conversation to help you be the best leader you can be in your business.